Bete Loga, Vanargand. Hi guys, I'm Asher. Today I'm finally back with the videos about different DanMachi characters. In this video we will talk about Bete, who even though in many occasions he is disrespectful and arrogant, he is still an interesting character with a past worth telling. In this video we will talk about his past, personality, relationships, abilities, and some curiosities that you may not know. Before we start, if you want to support the channel, you can do it on Patreon. The links are in the video description. Also, if you like the videos, please subscribe. It's a great support to the channel and motivates me to keep uploading content. But well, with nothing more to say, let's get started. It had been half a werewolf's lifetime ago. Bete Loga had been born into the world in the land to the north, to a tribe of wandering animal people, with no ties to any city or country. Unlike typical nomads, they were a people focused solely on hunting. The beastmen of the plains. Bete was the son of their chief. It was just him, his powerful father, his big-hearted mother, and later his sister. The entire tribe was his family. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. So keep those fangs polished. His father, stronger than anyone else he knew, had drilled that into him time and time again. As a tribe without a god to worship, everyone had to be strong, even the women and children. They'd fight off the monsters that roamed the surface, crush road caravans along with their guards, and do it all without the blessings of a status. More than anything else, their power as a race of people who awoke under the light of the moon, came from their untamed skills and knowledge, the techniques and strategies they'd long cultivated as a tribe. They were the beastmen of the plains, capable of taking on even low-level familias, and though many envoys from their surrounding countries and familias solicited their aid, Bete's father had always heeded the teachings of his ancestors and refused them. They lived as nature, their bodies turned to dust, and from that dust, new life emerged. And young Bete revered them all, from his tradition-honoring father, to the staunch brave warriors of his tribe. Good morning, Bete. There had been a girl too, born on the same day. She'd been a friend of his growing up. Her long softly golden hair was rare for a werewolf, and she was beautiful, standing out from among the others of her generation, like a brilliantly glimmering jewel. Like clockwork, as Bete had grown so had his feelings for the girl, and so had the scuffles with his male peers over her. You want it? Take it. That had been the simple rule hammered into him by the tribe, and Bete had heeded the call, training day in and day out until he was the strongest among the tribe's children. Until, finally he could claim her for his own. It was her warm side, fading into the wind. Even with you, I can't be strong. That had left the strongest, most genuine impression on him to this day. The girl had been weak, frighteningly frail. Which had forced Bete to train even harder, knowing he had to protect more than just himself. Going to his father, he'd asked to be treated as one of the tribe's warriors, venturing out with the adults on their many hunting missions. That was how he'd spent his youth, roaming those green hills surrounded by majestic mountains, the gaze of his childhood friend watching over him, joined every once in a while by his precocious sister, and simply training with everything he had. Then Bete's 12th birthday had arrived, and all of that had changed. Father, Mother, Luna. The night everyone in his tribe had been killed, it had been a massacre. A strange new monster had suddenly appeared on the plains, slaughtering everyone. Everyone except for Bete. Though he would only come to know this later, the beast had come from one of the world's three great frontiers, the Valley of Dragons to the far, far north. The colossal flightless dragon boasted scales that could ward off any attack. With one mighty roar, it had punctured the very eardrums of the plains people, and it had devoured even the tribe's warriors in their awakened beast mode. His father and mother had been torn to shreds, his sister had been crushed to death. Bete had been more fortunate. After a swipe to the face from the beast's claws, he'd been sent hurtling into a nearby outcropping of rocks, the impact knocking him out cold until the battle was over. When he'd crawled out later, dragging his battered body across the ground, nothing but rivers of blood and lumps of gnawed flesh remained. The black shadow of the creature was disappearing along the far horizon. It was the new master of the plains. It had devoured the weak and robbed the once strong of their privilege, turning them into nothing more than food. Bete had lost everything that day, in that one merciless attack. It was a tragedy the gods were all too used to, an everyday occurrence in that vast sprawling world, not even warranting a glance of interest. Survival of the fittest, the values of the dog-eat-dog world, that Bete's father had long impressed upon him, finally hit home. It was just how the world was. Divine providence, the real truth. The weak could have their happiness taken away from them in the blink of an eye. Bete's tribe had finally had the tables turned, becoming nothing more than the same prey they themselves had hunted. It was simple, the strong could get away with anything. They could take anything, and the weak could do nothing against them. His father had been weak, the warriors in his tribe had been weak, his mother, his sister, Bete himself, and even she, currently scattered into hundreds of fleshy bloody chunks across the ground, had been weak. Bete had cried, his wound still carved deep into his face, he'd cried tears of salt and blood. He was all alone now, sitting there beneath the light of the moon, he'd held at the heavens. After that, Bete, the only surviving member of his tribe, had washed his hands of his homeland. Directly disobeying the teachings of the beastmen of the plains, he'd sought out places with people. He had no intentions of trying to revive his tribe, they'd been weak. Natural selection would weed them out, so he tossed them aside, together with all the feelings he still had for them. What he craved was strength. Fangs that couldn't be broken. He vowed to cast off his weak flesh so he could fight back against the strong, to take down the master of the plains. It was from a passing peddler that he learned of another of the world's three great frontiers, the dungeon. It rested on the westernmost tip of the continent, within a city known as the Labyrinth City, and it was in this city that the strongest of adventurers and their gods gathered. Thus, Bete's journey for power began. As a lesson to himself and to his frailty, he had a reminder carved into his face, a symbol of his past self that he would never forget. And with that, his hunger grew, hunger to grow strong, to never have to lose anything anymore. Sometime later, Bete finally arrived in Arario and joined the Vidar Familia. Initially the Vidar Familia was a little-known familia, however, following the union of Bete, the familia began to gain fame and renown, with several of its members leveling up. Their growth continued with them eventually becoming one of the strongest mid-range familias, and the most powerful fighter type in all of Arario. At the same time, Bete became captain of the familia. When he was 16, he temporarily left the city as a level 3, to kill the monster that killed his clan, succeeding in doing so after a day of fighting. Unfortunately, he discovered upon his return that his familia had failed their recent dungeon expedition, resulting in the deaths of Selenia, the vice-captain who he used to be in a relationship with, along with several others, while others that survived gained wounds fatal for an adventurer. The Vidar Familia subsequently left the city, though he stayed behind, and later joined the Loki Familia after an incident with Finn and Gareth at a pub. Now let's talk about his personality, and some of his relationships with other characters. Bete has a rough personality and slight superiority complex. He completely hates the weak, especially those that don't do anything about their weakness, and is not afraid to express his opinions about it. He can be an idiot who can't read the atmosphere. Furthermore, he is a bad drunk and has a tendency to spout things when intoxicated. In spite of everything, he has in several instances displayed feats of heroism, and still worries for the well-being of his weaker subordinates. He is also described as a tsundere, hiding a more forbearing exterior. In my opinion, Bete is a character similar to Alan. They are characters who have suffered many traumas, and difficult situations at a young age. All of that has negatively enhanced his already difficult personality. Although I also think he behaves that way in an attempt to avoid being hurt again. I would say that for him that rude attitude is like a barrier trying to prevent him from getting emotionally involved with someone again. Of course that strategy doesn't work. Bete admires Eyes, and has a crush on her, but their relationship has been constantly strained because of his personality, which Eyes has shown time and time again to dislike. Bete at first detested Bel, and thought of him as a pathetic weakling who did not deserve to be an adventurer. Through time, his perception of Bel changed, and during the war game against the Apollo Familia, he even referred to Bel as a man as a sign of respect. Due to certain events, that I won't mention to avoid spoilers, Bete and Lena have a strange relationship. Luna loves him madly, even though at first Bete violently rejected her. However, despite his usual attitude, over time Bete shows some interest and concern for her well-being. Skills and equipment as an adventurer. Bete is level 6, and he is the fastest runner in the Loki familia, able to outpace even eyes using aerial. Even when he was still level 5, his skills allowed him to be faster than Finn, and the other level 6s of the familia. His fighting style consists mainly of attacking his enemy with a series of powerful kicks, sometimes employing his Frovert to enhance the strength of his attacks. Although most of the time he is unarmed, he occasionally wields a pair of daggers or swords, with which he has proven himself adept in combat. As a level 6, Bete possesses surprising physical strength, being able to lift a large orichalcum door using only one arm. Beastification enables Bete to unleash his wild instinct and power, or in other words, grow stronger by becoming violent. The trigger for a werewolf to beastify is being under moonlight, and all werewolves are known to have the associated skill. Magic. Hati is a fire enchant magic that absorbs magic power and damage. When Bete uses it, 4 flames are placed on each one of his fists and feet. The magic absorbs anything that uses magic power that it comes in contact with, be it attack magic, curses, or even magic barriers. As the magic absorbs more magic power, the flames grow, even burning Bete himself, which in turn increases its power even more, due to its damage absorption property. Contrary to Tiona and Tione's berserk skill, Hati has no limit to how powerful it can become. Despite how powerful it is, Bete refuses to use his magic due to the fact that doing so forces him to face the scars of his past, all his loved ones that he has lost and the pain that has come with it. Althin can only be activated if Bete is under the moonlight. Bete becomes beast-like, with this skill raising all his abilities by a large amount, and all abnormalities are negated. Hunter improves Bete's abilities against monsters he's fought before, and gained Excelia from. Abnormal resistance negates the effect of abnormalities such as poison. Weapons. Flovert are a pair of mithril boots that are able to absorb magic, and use its power to increase the wielder's own power. They were made by Tsubaki. The boots are actually a degraded version of Hati, for Bete to use instead of his magic. Dual Roland are dual swords with the Durandal attribute, created by Tsubaki Kulbrand. Now some curiosities about Bete. His features are described to be handsome, and he appears cool to others. Bete's alias, Vanargand, was given because of his speed. Bete is currently 22 years old. And well, that was all for today. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, please leave a thumbs up, share the video and leave your opinion in the comments. I will be reading your opinions. Also join Discord, there we can talk about DanMachi and even other animes. The link is in the video description. Best regards and see you next time.